I have returned. I know all 27 of you have been eagerly awaiting my return, but I was busy moving halfway across the country, so content kind of got put on hold. Nevertheless, I have returned. In keeping fashion with the 3 other videos I've uploaded on my channel, I have a brand new project today. But this one, unlike all the other ones, I actually planned for. Essentially, I've been playing a lot of Shadow of Mordor recently, and if you're unfamiliar with it, buy it, it's good. But it has really fluid, satisfying melee combat in it, and I want to replicate something like that, but in first person, and with my own, narrative spin on it. Now, like all of my other projects, it started with opening up a new Unity project to get work done, and unfortunately, I don't have footage of the whole, character controller creation process, and I actually made my own on this one instead of using brackeys, which is usually my default. But allow me to make this little animated thing. So basically, you have this bean, and this bean is our player. He can move forward, left, right, and backwards based on the character input, and look around using a simple mouse controller script. The bean is properly moving around, but he's moving around at Mach 5, which is kind of an issue, so I coded in to check how quickly the bean was going, and if he was going too fast, to limit his velocity to a certain point. And that brings us to the spot that I actually have footage for. We have our little bean man in his test area, but there's just one problem. It's empty as hell in here. For melee combat to work as a game mechanic, we kind of need melee combat, which at the very least means a sword and some enemies to hit. So I got to work modeling a sword, and fun fact, this is actually how quickly I model. I'm just that good. This clip definitely isn't running at 10 times speed because it takes me 20 minutes to stretch out a cube and add a handle to it. But with that model, I gave it to our bean, fiddled with a hitbox, and got to work on a sword animation. Now, there are 2 ways games typically handle melee combat. When a melee weapon is swung, they either check in a certain radius around the player, probably based off the length of the weapon, to determine what gets hit and what doesn't. The second option is that you put a solid hitbox on the sword itself, and when something collides with that hitbox while swinging, it takes damage. I've chosen to go with option 2 because that usually makes a little bit more responsive fighting. But with all this said, nothing matters without a decent swing animation, so after doing a little black magic coding, I got to work on a swing animation. This being said, I spent a lot of time trying to make a decent looking animation. You could tell it was supposed to be a sword swing most of the time, but it didn't look right. It looked kind of like you gave a claymore to a toddler and asked him to swing it. But after a while, I got one I was happy with and moved on to the enemies. At the moment, the enemy is a bean that goes from point A to point B, point A being its current location and point B being the player, and then swings his sword. It's not very complicated and it's definitely not final by any means, but it serves the purpose for testing. A couple slices with the sword and they go down easy, but it still provides some sort of use for testing. Now I wanted to round off this video with me finishing and animating the model for the base soldier in the game, because I spent a long time working on the soldier and it looks pretty nice. I subdivided a cube for the base model, stretched it into a general humanoid form, and then I used the sculpt tool to really go over the fine details and make it look like he was wrapped in twisty ties, because I won't give too much away because I want to do some of the story elements next episode. And I've said this before, but there will be another episode. But this is the general model I had for the base soldier, and normally what you do, you slap a skeleton into it, you hit apply with automatic weights, and Blender does most of the work for you. For some reason, Blender didn't do that this time, and I got left with this horrible but beautiful mess. I tried to change several things to see if I could get it to work, but it just wouldn't, which means I'm going to have to manually weight paint. And manual weight painting is hell. So sadly, that'll be in the next video. You get to see what he looks like now. Next episode, I'll definitely shore up some of the combat and all that. But that's all for this video, so I'd like to thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed and you want to see my upcoming videos, or you just feel like supporting, subscribe. I always feel like an idiot when asking people to subscribe because I just do this because it's fun. But if you want to subscribe, that would be pretty encouraging. So, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.